Hello there, I'm David, and this is Stupid Things People Do and what we can learn from them. Today we're talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, bullying. Actually, it's near and dear to most everyone's heart, especially people who are funny. It's the trauma that makes us that way. So if you know someone who's a font of creativity and laughter, they're probably a victim of bullying, or if they're not, they probably know someone who was. Actually, given 30% of the American workforce has experienced bullying at work, and even more experience it during school, that font of laughter might just as easily be you, the listener. We're in this together, you and I. Workplace bullying is a really weird phenomenon, because I always assumed that people would grow out of the petty vices of middle school, but I guess if you peaked at 13, outgrowing the high water mark of what you will achieve with your personality is a pretty big ask. As a consequence, workplace bullying remains an annoying, frustrating, humiliating, discouraging, and multiple other ing-words experience for many people. Depending on a few things, it might also be illegal, so that's good news. In this video, we will discuss what constitutes bullying in the workplace. This way you can punch people when it happens. Lawyer aside, no punching people. That is a funny joke, not a funny thing to do. There are many other ways you can take action, and so can your organization if they put in a bullying prevention policy. Jumping right into things, let me introduce you to Alexander Ascario-Cartese. No, that's not his real name, but similar to his namesake, he had a great preoccupation with flatulence. No, not that of cows. Instead, he was concerned with his supervisor, who, for our purposes, we'll call Colonel Mustard, who would allegedly enter a small, windowless office and crop dust his employees multiple times per day. And I mean, this had to be some grade A cabbage meets protein farts level crop dusting, because Alex went about suing him to the tune of $1.3 million for bullying and harassment. So either Alex had the most sensitive nasal cavities known to man, or Colonel Mustard had just discovered some new way to weaponize a vegan diet. Of course, this is all just an allegation, and Colonel Mustard asserted that he had only farted in Alex's office on a few occasions, and then without malicious intent. Also, Colonel Mustard noted that he hadn't been carefully auditing his farts. Farting is awkward, but it's a natural bodily function. And actually, it's kind of weird to be counting farts when you think about it. Regardless of his motives for the sulfide-inspired bookkeeping, Alex alleged the farts were beyond the pale, causing him to suffer depression, anxiety, and even physical injury on account of the chemical warfare waged by his boss. Alex alleged this attack on his senses was part of a much greater conspiracy to terminate him from his job. See our earlier stupid thing about constructive discharge, which, despite the name, is not actually related to farting. Whether we had crop dusting inspired constructive discharge at work, or whether Alex just really didn't like the smell of cheese, we'll never know. The case was dismissed since, while farting may be unpleasant, it's not actually illegal. The judge in this case noted that the alleged farting didn't occur with enough severity or frequency to constitute bullying or harassment, and that Alex's claims were inherently improbable. Which, generally speaking, once you're talking about a broad-reaching conspiracy to use farts to ruin your life, yeah, that would fall into the tin hat category of things. Now, I didn't share this lawsuit to trivialize the issue of workplace bullying and harassment. I've been a victim of it. Rather, I wanted to show the importance of establishing a case so that a judge doesn't declare you an unreliable witness and kick the case out. Bullying in the workplace can take many forms, and like gas, it can shift as the underlying causes change. In the case of gas, we're talking about broccoli, and in the case of bullying, we're talking about culture, technology, and a myriad of other factors. Let's begin with verbal abuse. It's one of the most common forms of bullying, whether it's name-calling, making fun, yelling mean remarks. This is one of those things we've all either seen or experienced. And sometimes bullying becomes physical, such as hitting, pushing, shoving, and unwanted touching. Of course, modern solutions require modern problems, and the internet, as always, rises to the task. Imagine the toxicity you see on Twitter, harassment, rumors, threatening messages, and import that harassment into the workplace. That's called cyberbullying, and it's as hard to tackle as the name would imply. Intimidation, e.g. making someone feel uncomfortable or fearful, that's obviously bullying. And of course, to be intimidation instead of assault, it's gonna be non-physical, and it's gonna involve things like threatening someone, staring them down, T-posing aggressively on their car. Anything that would be intended to inspire fear or discomfort would be considered intimidation. Now, a really weird one is discrimination, because it's an Ouroboros of bullying. Discrimination can be discrimination, and discrimination can be bullying. They feed into each other. In this case, discrimination involves treating someone unfairly because of their protected characteristics. And that can be bullying in its own right, such as withholding job opportunities for them. Or it can be caused by bullying, such as by forcing the same schmuck to clean up the latrines day in and day out. So those are 5 examples of bullying, but that's far from the whole list. In fact, it's functionally impossible to create an exhaustive list of what is and isn't bullying. People are endlessly inventive, and the minute you define this is bullying and this isn't bullying, someone is going to find a way to take something that hitherto now was not bullying and turn it into bullying. So, for example, having mandated attendance ice cream breaks. If you do it during Ramadan in a Muslim neighborhood, that could be bullying. So let's unpack the legal standard real quick. Obviously, this is going to vary by jurisdiction, but generally speaking, you're looking at 3 standards, and each of these could create liability. And if the behavior ticks more than one of these boxes, then could create goes from could to how could it not. I mean, sometimes it won't. Lawsuits are weird, but don't count on it. The first up is hostile work environment. Under this standard, a victim must prove that the behavior was severe or pervasive enough to create a hostile or abusive work environment. Hello, David here from the future. The lawyers wanted me to clarify something. The example we're using was from Australia, which has one standard for what legally constitutes a hostile work environment. The standard in the USA is a bit strict in that regard. Legally, hostile work environments in the USA are only created when the severe and pervasive behavior relates to a protected characteristic like race or gender, though this varies by jurisdiction, and some places protect more characteristics, and others, like Australia, have anti-bullying statutes. I just need to say that hostile work environment is not as intuitive as past David makes it seem. Next is constructive discharge. We covered this in detail in an earlier stupid thing. In short, if a victim resigns from their job due to the bullying, it can be considered a retroactive termination if the bullying was severe and pervasive enough. This can trigger a discrimination claim, and it can trigger the third thing, retaliation. We had a whole multi-part series on retaliation a while back. In short, there are protected activities, such as reporting harassment. Employers cannot make negative employment decisions, such as firing someone, in response to those protected activities. David here from the future. Once again, the lawyers are making me time travel, and for good reason. This stuff is really important to get right, and some idiot just put things on the teleprompter without the censor bureau getting their approval, and past David being an imbecile just read it. So, to explain what past me is about to try bumbling through. As we just established, constructive discharge theory refers to making a work environment so intolerable that a person feels forced to quit. It's used when it would be illegal to fire the person. And retaliation refers to taking a negative employment action because of a protected characteristic or activity, like reporting harassment. Some actions taken under constructive discharge theory could trigger this, others won't. So what the idiot in the past is trying to delineate is that hostile work environments, constructive discharge theory, and retaliation are an interweaving nest of potential liability. It's not so much that one causes the other, but that the same action, depending on factors involved, can create multiple ways that lawyers can take an organization to court. So beyond the intuitive golden rule, treat people right, don't be a bully kind of platitudes past David usually tries pushing on you, be aware that bullying could be as legally destructive as it is socially destructive. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you won't be seeing too much more of me, the time traveler.